Hello again and welcome back to Balmer's Workshop. Thanks so much for joining me here once again. It is always great to have you back. Today I'm going to be doing something a little different. Generally I work on only my own products. I don't accept other companies' products for installation or modification or anything like that, just because I've had issues in the past trying to deal with that. But this time I have made an exception because my customer bought a rear bumper from me and he wanted to buy a front bumper as well, but he was hoping for a permanent winch mount style front bumper, whereas the front bumper I offer is the receiver mount style, so temporary winch mount style. And he decided to go with an ARB front bumper. Now this ARB front bumper doesn't require any modifications to the vehicle for it to be installed, which allows it to be shipped worldwide and you know, more acceptable to the consumer, I should say, in that regard. I don't like that because the stock mounting points on the Sidekicks are very, very weak. There's 4 8mm bolts that hold it to the stock, that hold the bumper, I should say, to the stock bumper mounting locations, and then it's got a couple of 1/4" U-bolts that go around a cross member on the front of the vehicle. I'll show you all this stuff in a minute. And then it also has some blocks which secure it into the frame horns on the front of the vehicle, sort of. I think they're pretty feeble and weak. It's not up to the task of winching in my opinion. However, having said that, I haven't heard of a ton of failures with these, but it's just not the way that I like to do it. The reason why I modify the vehicle to fit my bumpers is so that we can obtain an awesome, rock solid, super strong installation. But anyway, without further ado, let's have a look at this ARB bumper and the kit that it comes with for installation, and we'll get it on the vehicle, and then we'll look at how we can actually improve the mounts by modifying the vehicle a little bit potentially. So here's our ARB bumper. It comes with a big sticker already on it, and the sticker is crooked, which would be very annoying to me if I were the customer in this case. It also comes with stickers that have been stuck to the side. Now, they've been kind of peeled off because this had a sticky plastic thin film all over it to protect it during shipping, and that sticky plastic thin film ripped the outer surfaces of these stickers off, but the rest is left behind. I'll let my customer peel those off because if there's any damage done during that process, I don't want to be responsible for it. But here we go. This is how the bumper mounts up. So these guys mount into the stock bumper mounting locations. 2 8mm bolts go in these, and these holes are massively oversized, which helps to make it easy to put on, but it makes it even weaker and even looser fit once it is installed. So in my opinion, a very, very poor bracket and mounting setup. And you can see that most likely during shipping, it was drastically bent. Let's look at both sides together with a square. So this side seems reasonably intact. If I put a square up against it, you can see that it's quite straight. However, if we look at this side, if I put a square up against it, it is drastically bent. Now, again, I don't imagine that that's how ARB turned their product out. I'm sure that happened during shipping. But my question is, should a bumper bracket be able to easily bend like that during shipping? I say no. This is 1/8" material, or even maybe slightly thinner than that. It might be even 12 gauge. Way too thin in my opinion, not strong at all, and just not up to the task. This lower section is also 1/8". This is the part that cradles around that cross member. So we're talking about that cross member right there. Here's your 2 stock bumper mounting locations. Those are the ones we just pointed out. And then that lower member will go around the cross member. This guy right here. And it will be secured with what appears to be a very poor quality 1/4" U-bolt. So again, in my opinion, not enough. And these are the blocks which will fit in behind the frame horn here and get sandwiched like that. Now, when you do that, you've got a gap in between the 2 mating surfaces, so a gap between this surface here and the bumper itself. This is where the bolts will go through for that. So it's going to sit on an angle. Okay, it's going to sit something like this. It won't sit nice and flat like that. It'll sit like that and provide really a very poor extra surface to secure the bumper by. So as you've gathered, my opinion of this bumper is quite low, and we'll see what we can do to reinforce it. Let me show you what I mount my bumpers with. This is one of my frame mounting plates. Okay, this is 1/4 inch thick steel with 9/16 holes burned through it. And what I do is I mount grade 8 1/2-inch nuts onto these, above these holes, and I weld them in place. So this, if a customer was to order my bumper, these plates would come complete with the nuts already welded on, and the customer would just have to weld the plate to the frame horn in order to install the bumper. But let's give you a little view of how this works. So here's your stock frame horn. It gets welded on very much like that, and again the bolts will already be, or the nuts rather, will already be in place. And then my bumper mount is this guy right here, and that of course bolts onto the front of it, and that's what secures the bumper. I do also use the little 8mm bolts on the sides, just like ARB does, but those are used strictly for locating the bumper so that you can get it positioned correctly before welding those frame plates up in the case of my bumper. So what I want to do is try to incorporate that same idea by putting a couple of holes into this plate and going through the plate into that frame horn, and again securing some hardware in that frame horn, welding some hardware into the frame horn. But I need to get the bumper on the vehicle first, because I suspect that this surface will meet right up with that frame horn, so I won't have any gap in between in order to place some welded hardware. So what I'll probably have to do is bore larger holes in here and weld hardware in behind, or something like that. I'm not exactly sure yet.
Riv nuts would have been a good solution for this as well. Normally I wouldn't want to depend on riv nuts to hold a bumper on, but if I would have gone with 1/2-inch riv nuts, being as this is just a supplementary installation point, I think that would have worked well also, but you'll see what I did.
And there it is. The ARB bumper is mounted. Let's have a look at how it fit up. Now, first of all, we'll have a little walk around the outside of this guy. And as you will notice immediately, it does not line up very well with the fender line, or the grill line there. I always make sure my bumpers sit dead level in that regard, and this one does not. But there's nothing we can do about that, because there's no ability to adjust the positioning of the bumper once you've got all of the hardware in place. Now, here's another thing. This portion of the bumper here would have looked, in my opinion, a whole lot better had they bridged this little gap instead of just leaving an odd shaped little cavity there. Also, this weld is not blended out. I always blend out my welds rather than leaving them exposed like that. So this one would be fine to leave exposed because it's an inside weld, but outside corners I always blend out. That just looks not very nice in my opinion. Now let's have a look at how this thing actually mounts. We use the stock bolts over here. They don't even give you new hardware. We use your old bolts, which are actually a little short for this application in my opinion. It'd be better to have slightly longer ones, but there it is. This side worked out just fine. There's a U-bolt in place. That one worked out okay, as you can see. I had to put it on a little bit of an angle. You can see there it's on a little bit of an angle in order to work. That's the only way I could make it work. This lug that it bolts into is only welded at the top and the bottom. They don't even throw a weld stitch in there. Which to me is very weak, and you know, it just would have been so easy just to throw a bead in there and make it stronger. Now here's those blocks, and as you can see, it's on a really awkward angle because of the way that it's designed. In my opinion, that offers little to no extra strength at all. Just a poor design. Over on this side, you can see we've got our block in place, and again on a big angle, as it has to be in order to work at all. But where the U-bolt is meant to go in on this side, there is a frame member which supports the radiator support itself is completely and utterly in the way. There's absolutely no chance that I can get the U-bolt in there. Give you the best view I possibly can. In fact, I wonder if you can see right through the hole there. I can't see the camera at this point, but maybe you can see right through that hole, and you'll see on the other side of it is a big piece of steel. So there's no chance of getting a U-bolt through it. And over here, you can see that our holes do not line up. I was able to get that top rear one in, but the bottom front one, it will need to be die grinded out in order to fit that guy in there, even though they give you massively oversized holes to begin with. So really poor fit up, not very happy with it. The weld on this side is even less attractive than the other. And again, we've got that big gap. Yeah, Not a great start with this here bumper. In terms of actually reinforcing it myself, things that I could add are a tab off the bottom of the bumper here, and then I'll put a welded nut there that it will attach to, or just maybe right here if I can fit it. I could change this block and still utilize these two holes, but actually create a proper bracket that comes off the inside of this frame horn. There's an opportunity for that. So maybe I'll do that. I'm not completely sure yet. I'm trying to make it reasonably easy on myself, so I'm thinking this is probably my better option, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of thought. But there you are. That's my brief review of an installation on a Suzuki Sidekick ARB front bumper. Okay, so here is what I have added. Just some 1/8 inch angle iron. There was an existing slot in the bumper on the inboard hole there, which I utilized. And then I created a hole in both the angle iron and the bumper bracket on the top there that you can see, which is not currently filled with a bolt. And then I welded a couple of captive nuts to the frame horn there. Right now I've got 1 inch long bolts in there, which need a bunch of spacers, but I will add 1/2 inch bolts after this, 1/2 inch long, 1/2 inch diameter bolts that won't need those spacers, and everything will be pulled nice and tight via those. I also did some die grinding, so that now we can get both bolts in the passenger side, the stock locations. And I think that I've been able to pass a pencil through the hole for the U-bolt there, and I've made a mark exactly where I need to drill. So now what I'm gonna do is actually remove the bumper and try to drill right through that radiator mount, and maybe I can get that U-bolt in place yet. So I might be in luck. Let's see what I can do with it.
Here's a better look at that captive hardware. Again, these are grade 8 1/2 inch nuts that have been just welded straight to the face of that frame horn to give some extra stability. Not quite as much as I would normally do with those frame plates that I showed you earlier that I used to mount my own bumpers, but definitely enough to act as a supplemental installation point on this bumper. And we've primed them up here, and you can see I did successfully drill through that radiator mount, but I had to also die grind it right down to the cross member level in order to be able to pass a U-bolt through it, as you can see right here. So with these few modifications done, I was able to mount the bumper. As you can see, the ARB bumper is not strictly bolt-on as advertised, but it's not far off. You will need a die grinder for sure, and you'll need a drill bit and a drill at the very least. But in order to mount it securely, at least in my opinion, it does need some supplemental mounts, which you've seen me add here. I know I've been really harsh on this bumper. A lot of people love ARB. A lot of people are probably hating me right now. But you know, this is my opinion. I'm entitled to it. I produce stuff that I'm proud of. If I wanted to send stuff worldwide and make everything super bolt-on, maybe I would be doing similar stuff to ARB, but that's not my approach, so this is my attitude. Like it or leave it. And on that note, this is the end of this one. Thanks a lot for joining me again. Take care, everybody. See you later.